Deaths in Glenmorach Manor, a fiction novel. Written by Shirley, read by Sir Lawrence Olivier. This audiobook was narrated using synthetic voice technology provided by 11 Labs. Chapter 23. That night, the moon hung low in the sky, casting a faint, ghostly light over the remote village, as John and I returned to the isolated, abandoned house where we found the poisonous plants earlier. This time, I decided that we go there by horse-drawn carriage without a coachman taking us there. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, and the only sounds were the distant calls of night birds and the rustling of leaves in the breeze. We moved cautiously through the narrow, winding paths of the village. Finally, John stopped the carriage in an area that was a bit far from the house, hidden behind tall bushes, so that it wouldn't draw anyone's attention that we were there to observe the house from a distance. Our footsteps were silent as we took up positions a good distance from the house. The weathered stone walls of the building seemed to blend into the darkness, its shadowy outline barely visible against the backdrop of trees. For nearly an hour we waited in the dark, hearts pounding with anticipation. The minutes dragged on like hours, and the stillness began to feel oppressive. Our breath formed small clouds in the air, the silence stretching so long that we began to wonder if we were wasting our time. Perhaps whoever we were expecting to appear that night would not be coming at all. Just as we were about to give up and head back to Glenmorach Manor, a sudden movement caught my eye. A shadow, thin and elongated, crept out from behind the trees near the house, moving cautiously towards the door. My heart skipped a beat. We weren't alone. I signaled John to remain quiet, and we crouched down, lower behind the overgrown hedges, straining to see more clearly. The figure was small and bent with age, moving deliberately but slowly. As she got closer, it became clear she was an old woman. Her twisted hands clutched a cane, her back curved from years of hardship, and her face was partly hidden by the drape of her shawl. She seemed like someone who had spent a lifetime in dark, now slipping into the depths of the night. Without a word, we followed her, keeping to the darkness, careful to make no noise as she reached the door of the isolated house and entered. John and I exchanged a look, silently agreeing on what needed to be done. We moved closer to the house, crouching behind the overgrown garden wall, our eyes fixed on the dim glow of the interior. There was a faint light visible through the cracks in the wooden door. We watched her every move. We barely moved, not wanting to alert her or give away our position. Our patience was wearing thin, but then, just as I was beginning to wonder if this was another dead end, we saw it. The old woman moved to the table, her hands shaking as she began to unpack something from a worn leather bag. I could barely make out the shapes, but the unmistakable sight of the dark, twisted plants set my pulse racing. It looks like she was about to prepare another potion using those poisonous plants. I whispered to John, "I'm ready to catch her in the act." John nodded, his hand resting on the edge of his gun. We were both tense, ready for what was to come. We could no longer afford to wait. We couldn't let this opportunity slip through our fingers. With a deep breath, I moved toward the door, and before I could stop myself, I kicked it open with a loud crash. The sound echoed like thunder in the night air, and she spun around, her eyes widening with shock, her hands trembling as she fumbled to hide the plants on the table. "Who are you?" she croaked, her voice a harsh rasp. "Sit down," I commanded, my voice sharp as I stepped inside and aimed my gun at her. The woman's face twisted in a mixture of fear and defiance, but she obeyed. Slowly she sank into a chair, her frail body trembling under the weight of the moment. John assisted me in tying her hands behind the chair. "You're going to stay put. We have questions." John and I began securing the room, making sure there were no other surprises. The air in the room felt thick with the oppressive stench of the poisonous plants, and the old woman, though clearly startled, seemed to gather herself with a strange calm. I wasted no time. "Who ordered the poison?" I demanded. My voice was cold and firm. Her eyes flickered, but she quickly averted her gaze. She shook her head, muttering something under her breath. But I wasn't going to let her get away that easily. "I don't know what you're talking about," she protested weakly, her hands trembling as she tried to fold them in her lap. I took a step closer, leaning over the table, my eyes never leaving hers. Without wasting any time, I got straight to the point with my accusation about the poison. "You know exactly what I'm talking about." "The poison? The plants? You were making it to kill someone." She flinched, but didn't answer. I pushed further with my question, and it appeared to shock her. "Benjamin Wallace. Ever heard that name? You made poison to kill Mr. Benjamin Wallace, didn't you? Who ordered it?" She hesitated, her lips trembling as if the truth weighed heavily on her. But still, she said nothing. I could feel the frustration bubbling in my chest, and I took a step forward, my voice growing more insistent. Then I spoke to her again, the words leaving my mouth as a challenge. "Then Robert Wallace was the next target, wasn't he? I know you're involved. We know you made that poison." Finally, after several long seconds of silence, the woman's shoulders slumped. Her gaze lowered to the table as if the weight of the truth was too much to bear. She whispered hoarsely, "It wasn't supposed to go this far. Someone bought the potion from me. They said it would only be used to silence someone, but I never thought it killed him. I don't even know if the victim would be Mr. Benjamin Wallace." I leaned in closer, breath caught in my chest. "Liar. Who paid you to kill Benjamin Wallace?" The old woman closed her eyes, trembling, when I pressed her further about who had ordered the poison. She looked at me with a blank, almost detached expression. "I don't know who they were. All I know is that they told me where to leave it. I was paid to place it in front of the back door of a specific house. I was told exactly where the house was located. And once I left, they paid me the amount we agreed on," she said, her voice shaking with a mixture of fear and indifference. John and I exchanged confused glances. "Which house? Where did you leave the poison? How did you deal with someone you never met?" The old woman's gaze shifted uneasily, her hands trembling as she spoke. "It was a small house near the vineyard. That's all I know. I've never been inside. They just said to leave it there. And that's what I did. I don't care who owned the house. I never asked. As long as they paid me, I didn't care," she told me with her trembling voice. "They left a letter at my place. Not here, I mean my home. Not far from here. I don't know how they knew about me, but they asked me to make the potion they requested for the price they offered. And if I agreed, I was supposed to leave the order at the back door of a house at the location they told me." My heart pounded in my chest. A small house near the vineyard. This could be the breakthrough we were looking for. But I needed more from her. "Take us there," I commanded, my voice steely. She hesitated. Her fear was palpable. "I don't want to go back there, please," she begged. But we weren't giving up. I nodded to John, who moved swiftly, placing a hand firmly on her shoulder. "Do you really think you still have a choice? Take us there now." Reluctantly, the old woman agreed, and we led her toward the village. She moved slowly, every step unwilling, but we had no time to waste. We eventually arrived at a small cabin near the vineyard, the location where she had said she had dropped off the potion. "Mate, now that we've been shown the place, I think we should take her to Inspector Harris now. Then we can go back to this house," John said, his voice barely above a whisper. I responded to John. "All right, let's not waste time. We have to get her to him now." We quickly tied her up and bundled her into the carriage. We were about to hand her over to Inspector Harris. Once we left the small cabin, John, the old woman, and I headed to Inspector Harris's office, traveling by horse-drawn carriage driven by John himself. The village was eerily silent, dark and damp, with winding roads leading us there. As we went there, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the cusp of solving the mystery once and for all. The poison, the plants, the secretive dealings. It was all beginning to connect. Finally, we arrived at Inspector Harris's office. "Let's take her in," I said, nodding to John. The old woman was arrested for selling poison and complicity in the murder attempt on Robert Wallace. After the old lady was taken into custody, John and I returned to the small cabin, the location where she delivered the potion, ordered by an unknown buyer. The cabin was in a small clearing near the edge of the vineyard, far from the village and hidden by a small grove of trees. It was unremarkable, simple, made of old stone and wood, but still standing strong against the elements. We hid our carriage a bit far from the cabin. Then we reached the cabin on foot. As we approached, we found the front door locked, but the back window was slightly ajar, and my instincts told me something was off. I signaled John to stay silent as we slipped in through the back window. The place was still, eerily still, but everything was in its place. Furniture was covered in very thin dust. It was clear someone still lived there recently. The chairs were positioned as though in use. A fire had been recently extinguished in the hearth, and a half-drunk mug of something still sat on a table by the window. It was as if the person who lived here had just left not too long ago, but hadn't returned. The place was untouched, almost frozen in time, yet there were no signs of life. Someone lives here. "But they are not home tonight," I muttered under my breath, examining the room carefully. "Perhaps someone just uses this house during the day or only occasionally," John suggested, offering his speculation. I motioned for John to stay close as I moved to the center of the house, looking for any clues, anything that would give us a lead. The place had a peculiar stillness to it, but something about it felt wrong, like I was trespassing in a place where I didn't belong. I was about to turn when I noticed something strange in the corner of the room. A small chest tucked away behind a heavy curtain. My gut twisted with suspicion as I walked toward it and opened it. Inside, I found several bundles of papers, old and yellowed with age, but unmistakably significant. Then I moved toward the kitchen. By accident, I stepped on the floor that had a big, heavy old rug on it. I heard creaking sounds as if they were slightly moved. I made multiple attempts to tread on it to confirm that the area was creaking in comparison to the rest of the area. When I asked John to remove the large rug covering it, I found a handle lying flat on the floor. There was a hidden basement. I lifted the handle of the basement trapdoor with trembling hands, my breath catching in my throat as I entered the hidden underground basement. Meanwhile, John waited at the end of the door, keeping watch in case someone arrived unexpectedly. While I was in the basement, illuminated by the dim light of the candle I had found in the kitchen, I saw someone sitting in the corner of the room. The sight of that person left me completely astonished. I shocked. I did not believe in what I saw with my eyes. I never expected that person was Anthony Wallace.